Hey guys, welcome to New Society, and I'm your host, Carlo Jean-Michel. With me is my special co-host for the episode, Jordan Peterson.
I'm back.
Perfect. So, thank you so much for joining us for last week.
This is rolling. I pressed play. I wasn't ready. I'm fine now, though.
Do you want me to start over? Are you sure?
I just wanted to tangent.
Clearly. Well, for sake of options. Hey guys, welcome to New Society. And I'm your...
Options?
What?
Why would you say that about me? Like I'm a bad option?
So that you can have options.
Oh no, continue.
In editing.
But this is fine. I'll keep all this in.
Okay. Alright. Just trying to stress
I just
me
got
out.
my attention.
Just trying to stress me out. Okay?
Continue.
I got you.
It's my podcast now.
So we're diving right in. Last week we were discussing, what were we discussing? Jesus. We were discussing ancestral karma and my interpretation of what that is, which is basically sins of the previous generation become the sins of the current, and so on and so on. And I feel that it's everyone's individual responsibility, or maybe responsibility is too harsh of a word, for lack of something better in this moment. It's every individual person has a choice. You can pass on what you've learned, the good, the bad, the ugly, to the next generation, or you can pick and choose and say, you know what, I want them to have a better life than I did. And keep out the things that, fucked you up, for lack of a better phrase. For those of you that talk to me, and for those of you that I've been in contact with recently, I'm very vocal about the work that I've done energetically and emotionally. I'm so grateful because I feel like I found my stride in meditation like just before quarantine. It was just after like 2019. Or later into 2019, and I found my flow and I found my groove and I really started to heal. And there are these really cool photos of, like, is the TV too loud?
No, just continue. It's raining outside, even though we're in California.
Even though we're in San Diego, California, and it was sunny all day. There's these really cool photos of, like what everyone thinks meditation is, and it's this like,
What is meditation? Because people send me that, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure you're not meditating. Like, there's no way you're doing these things and meditating. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
I feel like there's a lot of different versions of meditation. So I'm asking
Absolutely.
your version.
You know what? That's my version. It's in the eye of the beholder. I personally believe that meditation.
Life is meditation.
Without getting too intense, Sensei.
That's what I always think. I mean,
Like,
it literally is. So what is this additional meditation?
My understanding of it, actually, all joking aside, is that that's the goal, to always be in a perpetual state of meditation. My interpretation of meditation is this. It's a mind, body, spirit meld. It's where all three work in concert with one another in order to essentially provide you with the best life that it can. Science is further proving that our bodies are far more intelligent than we ever gave them credit for in the first place. And when we listen to them and we're in tune with them, they serve us far better. A lot of nutritionists will tell you that your body will tell you what it needs. And we have a tendency to allow our crutches to take the wheel. A lot of people eat their feelings. I did for a very long time. And without getting too far off topic, I mean, that's what I perceive meditation to be. It's where you quiet the mind, you quiet the thoughts in your head that debilitate you, that stress you out, that cause you the anxiety that so many people are feeling from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to bed at night. One of my favorite questions is, how often from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to bed do you think about yourself? And not just I have to make it to an appointment, I have to
Continue.
not not so much I have to make it to an appointment. I have to, get to work before traffic runs out. I'm obligated to do this. I'm obligated to do this. It's more like, how am I feeling today? Did I allow myself enough time to recover from yesterday? Did I, do I have any me time for the day? In any given moment, in any situation, like, to ask yourself, how am I feeling right now? I'm really stressed out. I'm really frustrated. I'm really overwhelmed. And I feel like those are the moments that we don't even know to tune into, to basically say, I need a little bit of self-care right now. And since I got to that point, I've been in conversations where I've said, you know what, I need a minute. Like, I just got really stressed out, or really frustrated, or really overwhelmed, and my thoughts kind of escaped me, and I need a few minutes to kind of like regain my composure and get to a point where I can finish this conversation. It could be a few minutes, it could be a few days, but regardless, that's where I'm at right now. And for a long time, that was really difficult for me, because my thought process is, how is someone going to handle that? But at the end of the day, you didn't give them anything to handle. You told them where you're at. It may be one thing that the rest of society isn't falling in line with that and listening to themselves as well as you are, but that's their problem to catch up, not yours. Your obligation is to yourself. Your happiness is to yourself, and that's what this entire podcast is all about. Living life on your terms and not as society dictates. So,
New society.
New society.
I got a hat.
And the best part is that I feel like New Society perfectly encapsulates the entire podcast, because that's where we're at.
There's a break, a shift.
That's what the last episode was all about. The energy's different. We're about to dive into today's societal deformity, which, just to remind you, is, what the hell's deformity?
That's a bad word.
Oh, is that? What's so?
I don't want to do more editing than I already have to.
Oh,
Jesus.
fair. You're right. Give me
Baby
more.
Jeebus.
My bad. Thank you.
Gosh darn it. Continue.
Societal deformity is a deeply rooted construct in our society that negates our success and sets us up for failure. And today's is men in our society. Men themselves are, Jesus Christ, I'll give you a minute to lose your shit.
Proceed.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just push it down further with all my other traumas.
Which is the complete opposite of what we're doing here today.
Well, you just did it to me.
I did not. Let me finish, bro. Let me finish.
Let me finish, bro. Let me finish before you die.
To this guy. I can't.
Okay.
So it's honestly, when you think of men, when you think of a man in our society, certain things come to mind for every single person. And we're going to dive into what I perceive that to be. So I also mentioned my favorite TED Talk is with stars Nicole Emma, and it starts like this. Link will be in the description, and I'll tell you what it is after I read you this part. Some people think we can live without intimacy, without connection. And I think, and I love when she does this, that is total crap. Today, a miracle happened. And when she's, sorry, this is more editing. I think that is total crap. And then she goes on to read an email that she received a couple years back. And it goes like this. Today, a miracle happened. Since my wife passed, I've been very lonely. I haven't so much as been hugged in over 2 years. I'm not handsome. I'm not rich. I don't know how to talk to women. But you held me. You rubbed my back. You listened to me vent about my grief. This might be just a job for you, but today you saved my life. She goes on to say, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a doctor. I don't work for a crisis hotline. She steps back, puts her arms out, and she's like, I am a sex worker. Not like, that's what she is. And she says, and as a sex worker, I see a side of people that most people don't. And after she steps back and says she's a sex worker, everyone applauds, which I think is awesome. She says sex work is defined as sexual encounters by consenting adults for some sort of payment. And then she says statistically, because the crowd goes nuts and is like, you know, they're like, oh my God. And she's like, before you allow your imagination to go wild, she goes, statistically, sex lasts on average for 5.4 minutes. Yeah. So if they're paying for an hour, or 3,
Wait, what?
I
Continue. I'm not going to comment on that. Yes.
statistically, sex lasts on average for 5.4 minutes.
You don't have to say it again. Like just continue past that point. Continue past the point. Continue past the point.
If they're paying for an hour or 3, what exactly are they paying for? And her response is a place to be their true selves.
A sandwich.
A sandwich. She does not say that.
I would.
A place to talk about their challenges without being criticized or judged. A place to try new things without losing everything. But yeah, so to get to the point, I honestly feel like that is such a dramatic part of men today in our society. And it's crazy because, you know, for example, when you get to cheating, you know, people get so up in arms and they're like, how could you do this to me? And it becomes about them. And I 100% get that. I've been cheated on. It makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
However, ignoring that. So, with all of that said, this is how I feel. I feel like as soon as we were standing on hind legs, and for a long time after that, a man's measure of whether or not he was in fact a man was measured by 2 things. His ability to conquer worlds and be Alexander the Great, or wrestle a live animal. Like wrestle a bear in the wilderness with your bare hands.
Isn't that the same thing?
Sure.
Okay.
Actually, I feel like a lot of guys would agree with you.
And the hat.
And I mean, nothing happens without a hat, so
It's,
you know. But yeah, I recently like came to a conclusion where that's really how I feel about it. I feel like even though the mentality today is basically a measurement of how much money you make, or well, I'll actually get into that because Nicole Emma actually mentions in the episode that men are often measured on one of 3 things: your muscles, your money, and your mojo. And she says as far as muscles go, you can't control your body, or rather, you don't get to pick your body.
Height.
Well, just body in general, like your height, your width, your natural disposition to building muscle.
I mean, I worked a long time to get my muscle. It takes like 3 years. So, I mean, I feel like people get in the gym and they're like, oh no, I'm skinny. It's like, no, you have to put in a lot of work.
A whole lot. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, so your muscles, your money, and she says when it comes to your money, it's really hard to make happen, and even then, it can go away just as quickly. And she's like, let's just stop there. She's like, your value is measured on 3 things, and the first 2, you can't really control. So from her perspective, she's like, no wonder men go to sex. Because, and this is where the whole like, unless you're Alexander the Great and you're conquering like nations, or you're wrestling alligators or bears or whatnot like in the wild, on some level, for some reason in this society, you're not considered a man, and it's total bullshit. Of all the men that I know, I can probably count on one hand the people that I firmly believe could do both. I know a lot of people.
I have a question. I have a good like little statement.
Yeah.
I think that the only men that are considered men are the ones that consider themselves men, because there's nobody that's going to come up and say, you're a man. And I found that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that nobody really likes men in our society because it scares them. And it's just the society right now. And it's nobody's specific fault. it's another rabbit hole. But
Okay.
you have to like dub yourself as the man to be a man.
And it blows my mind because I feel like the ones that are dubbing themselves as men are the ones that are the furthest thing from my
Does it
perspective.
work though? How many people did they bamboozle into believing that?
Touche, quite a few actually. Quite a few. It just mystifies me because of so many reasons. So, to get to the Alexander the Great and, you know, wrestling animals in the wild, that has now been replaced with, you know, a successful career, or being the alpha in your social circle. And I came across a really great quote today, and I want to say that Nicole, I follow her on social media, she's awesome, and I want to honor the post, just to be sure. And it said, "You aren't an alpha male because you take protein, work out, and buy trucks. You're an alpha male when you protect those weaker than you."
Yeah.
And I kind of stand by that. I kind of stand by that. Because from my perspective, here's the thing. If you want your attraction, or what, rather your value, to be measured on how much muscle you have, as far as I'm concerned, you're totally missing the point, dude. Number one, and number two, like, the measure of a true alpha, like, to really honor the term, and those of you that know me know how much I love words, like a true alpha, to me, that's exactly what you are. You're an alpha to your pack. You're you know, like, tribe is one of the new terms today. I've bought into it myself, and a true alpha in your tribe, you know, like, you look out for the ones that aren't as well equipped to do it themselves, either physically or mentally. And that's how it works for me, and it blows my mind because, again, the ones that are, you know, preaching to anyone who will listen how much of a man that they are the ones who are so damaged and so broken, and are they don't realize how much they're showing the world, this is my little boy who's crouched in the corner behind me crying hysterically because he hasn't gotten over all the shit that he's been through in his childhood.
If you're saying it, it's not true.
Exactly.
You can't just say this is what I am, and then you're trying to like trick people, but it kind of reflects back really negatively.
And it's awful. It's awful because it's stressful for the people that you're trying to victimize, and I use victimize
You just use it, so
a
continue.
little bit, like, you know,
Continue.
not as dramatically as I'd like to, but I use the term victimize slightly loosely, in the sense that you're trying to put people in a position to, you know, see you that way, and when there are discrepancies, it becomes really challenging. It becomes really stressful, and it gets to a point where it's like,
You're like acting around that person.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, wow, your ego is so fragile that unless I, you know, feed these things, this hangout's gonna get really fucking weird really quick.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point in my life where I don't have time for that. And the other people who don't have time for that will either ghost you or won't have the heart to tell you for whatever reason. And stop doing it to yourself and stop doing it to them. But yeah, I think being a man in society is exhausting. I really, really do. I think from, like, one of the things that she discusses, that Nicole Emma discusses in her TED Talk, is, you know, how young were you when you heard the following phrases? Toughen up. Man up. Don't be a sissy. Real men don't cry. Like, I feel like I've never read the book Men Are From Venus and Women Are From Mars, but I kind of hate it because I feel like there's just this understanding that men and women are completely different, which I completely agree with. And I may make a lot of people angry, but please hear me out.
I'm angry.
Minus you. Men, from my perspective, they're built to be hunters. They're built to be strong, to be fast, to be protectors. What are they protecting? The divine feminine. Women are born with the ability to give life. You're divine. The end. There's no question about it. There's no doubt about it. And men are just built to protect you. And minus lesbians, minus feminists, I feel like women get in the way of that a lot of times. And we'll get there. But with that said, everyone has their place. Nature always creates a balance. And this is it. However, I feel like when you get to a point where I feel like along the way society's dropped the ball in the sense that if you weren't able to protect to a certain level, you were shamed. Like Game of Thrones, shame! Like, and it's awful. It's awful. It's absolutely awful. Because to me, like, I mean, I get it. You're born, like, I just finished saying that you're born to protect. And I also said nature always creates a balance. I feel like she doesn't make mistakes, yet there are men out there who are just at that level where they're not capable, or rather, they're just not built to do so mentally, emotionally, or otherwise. And you ever hear of an outlier? Like, nature doesn't make mistakes. And I feel like men who are in a position where their natural disposition isn't to go to battle, I feel like that's okay. And better yet, we don't live primitively anymore. We live, I mean, you know, those dangerous statement, I understand. But, you know, like, I'll focus on the US specifically. We're not in the wild. We're not, like, unless you're military, like, you're not in a position to defend. And if you are, you have the option to move. Start really emotional.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm over here in my own little world trolling.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
This is just my mood tonight.
thank you for supporting me.
Why are you emotional?
Dude, this is a challenge. This is a lot because you and I have talked about my connection with like my guy friends and just like guys in general. Like we've talked about, you know, me being an empath and my ability to see through the bullshit that people like put up, and I see to the core of a person, and there are just so many men who are fucking so damaged, but they're not in a position to do anything about it. Like, I've been talking about Kyle Kingsbury a ton. Absolutely love him, and I love the rest of of his tribe. There's a really awesome Aubrey Marcus podcast where, you know, his tribe, they're all just talking about, they're discussing the archetypes, which is a whole other conversation. If you want me to talk more about that, leave it in the comments.
Comments.
However, she's talking about, well, they're all having a conversation, and at one point, Kyle Kingsbury reads a quote from a book, which is so beautiful, and he's moved by it so much so that he cries. And he's talking about, you know, what parents are. However, before that, you know, he's talking about getting into fights with his wife, and, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but basically, you know, it's to the point like where they'll be fighting, and she'll be like, there are tears streaming down your face. You are having a strong emotional reaction to what it is that we're discussing right now, yet you're not talking to me. And, you know, while he's telling the story, he's like, and in that moment, I don't know how to tell her that one minute we're fighting about whatever we're fighting about, and the next minute I'm 8 years old and my mom's yelling at me. And he's like, that's not her problem. That's not her trauma. That's not a part of her story. That's part of my story. And he's like, it was my responsibility to make peace with that. It was my responsibility to get to that point, to see that trauma as it was, identify it, and then start healing. And
That's tough.
to me, that's an alpha. Do you know what I mean? Like to be so, I don't know.
To be aware enough to begin with.
To be aware enough. Like actually, in a Kyle Kingsbury podcast, it's the one where he's chatting with John Callahan, and I want to say he's a former NHL player, but you know, he's just talking about his story and his journey, and you know where he was at, and like you know being an athlete and playing hockey, and you know just being this like physical specimen of you know athleticism and being in like peak shape and whatnot. And then it got to a point where he retired, and you know he didn't use these words, but basically like his priorities shifted, and he needed to redefine his life.
That's hard. I've seen a lot of my friends do that. Everybody that comes out of like a super competitive sport, you've seen that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like in cheer.
100%. Yeah, that's why so many people still.
I'm kind of still in that. Weirdly.
I mean, it was really hard for me, really hard. Then you know he's going through his whole journey. It's an hour-long podcast. It's great. He's talking about his journey, and then like at the very end, there were about 2 minutes left, and I remember this because I was working and I was writing, and I was in the middle of writing, and I got really into what I was doing, and then all of a sudden I heard something, and I was like, wait, what did he just say? And then I rewinded it, and there was only like 2 minutes left, but he gets to a point where he's like, him and his wife finally went to Burning Man. This is John Callahan, and him and his wife go to Burning Man. They wanted to go for a long time, and they're there. And he said that it was among the best experiences of his life. Like just
That's
such
crazy. I want to go one day.
Like
have you seen the videos and stuff?
I don't know if I've seen the video. Yeah, I mean, I have. I feel like I only know like 10% of what really goes on there. Yeah.
I only want to know so much.
But he just said like you know that like what made those so great was his wife and the bond, the connection that they shared. And the reason that I rewinded it like because he's talking, and all of a sudden he gets choked up, he gets teary-eyed, and it's hard for him to like you know like he's choked up, but he's talking about how you get to a point when you do the work for yourself, you get to a point where you're able to connect, you know, like he felt like he had all these great connections in his life, like, you know, he had his band of brothers, he had, you know, like his kids, he had his family, but then there was his wife, and like, just the way that he talked about it, the honor and the reverence, and like, she was just like, every time he mentioned her, like, she was a whole other realm for him. Like, as much as he loved, you know, like, the guys the friends he called his brother, and like, you know, obviously his kids, and like, you know, all this stuff, like, whenever he referred to her, there was just this, you could feel that tether. It was awesome, and it was beautiful, and it honored how he clearly felt about her, because he was just like, you get to a point when you do the work where you start to heal, and someone can see you the way that you want them to see you. And he was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. But at one point she was just like, I love you. She's like, you're enough. You're it for me. She's like, I can fucking live in this tent with you right here, right now, and be happy for the rest of my life. Like it's you. It's not what you can provide me. She's like, it's nice and I appreciate it. Like, you know, I appreciate like the life that we live. But what I heard him say that she said was that it's you that adds the value in that. And that just it was awesome. It was fucking incredible, because I feel like most guys won't allow themselves to get to a point where they can hear that. And that's what he said. He was like, she said this to me before, but I didn't hear it. Yeah. Like, I couldn't. I wasn't able to. And that's what it's all about. And I guess, like, you know, in a nutshell, like, the whole point of this episode is just to allow men to fucking be who men are. And women, do not help. You do not help, because you'll be the first. You'll be the first. Like, I have, ironically enough, I have so many guys in my life who their girlfriends or their wives will tease them, and they'll be half kidding about them being gay or them being attracted to men. But here's the thing. Women are so often
Not kidding.
attracted to their gay best friend.
Oh.
Yeah,
Plot twist.
You didn't see this coming.
Oh, that's the other way.
Women are so often attracted to their gay best friend because from their perspective, it's the best of all worlds.
Bro, I got called that so many times when I didn't want to sleep with girls but just want to be their friend. They're like, oh, it's just my gay best friend. Because of my emotions. It's the cheat code, bro.
And ladies, when you say that, just so you know, you are not helping. You are adding to that whole pandemic in and of itself.
The what?
Pandemic, you heard me.
Pin?
Pandemic.
Oh, pandemic.
Yeah, pandemic.
I thought you said pandemic. I was like, what?
I mean, if I did, would you not have understood what I meant?
Well, I don't know. Continue.
But I think this is super important for people to hear. Women are so attracted to their gay best friend because as far as they're concerned, it's the perfect fucking guy. She's worshipped, she's valued, and she's told so on a regular basis. When she's not representing herself right, it's the gay best friend who steps in and is like, boo.
Yes, sir.
You better think for a sec.
Gotcha.
There's a stereotypical shopping. There's the
Yes!
let's hang out for hours doing whatever it is that we want to do. But it's like,
Nails.
but they're best friends. And they connect on that emotional level. And oftentimes he's crying more than she is. But there's an intimacy there. And that's all every girl wants. And as far as I'm concerned, the women who are going on about how he has to be this and he has to be this and he has to be this, myself included sometimes, I'm not going to lie to you. But,
Height and job.
you know, like...
I've
like,
heard that, and girls get so screwed over when they go after that guy.
Because you're getting what you pay for. None of that shit is real.
None of it matters. You're just running away. You're trying to create a perfect life that doesn't exist. It's princess programming.
I like that.
You've never heard of princess programming?
No, but that's a whole other conversation that we're going to discuss because women are already up in arms with me right now. They're pissed.
What?
I said,
Pissed?
what? Women?
Yeah.
Call them out right now.
Women are pissed. Not me. You. He's the one you should be mad at. I am a saint.
Wow.
I am a saint.
Wow.
Hey, look.
How fast was that bus going before I was thrown under it?
I'm scared of women.
I'm just curious.
There's two things I'm scared in life. It's loneliness and women. That's basically the same thing.
Well, good thing for the both of us, I'm not. With that said...
I love women. Women are...
With that said, be careful. Because when you call a guy out and you're like, oh, what are you, gay? It's your insecurity. It's your shortcoming. It's your saying, oh, you're not attracted to me right now, you must be gay. All of a sudden, you're still worthy.
Oh, I didn't think of it that way.
That's exactly what it is.
Well, sometimes she's testing. She kind of like wants to see... Well, it is the
if
same
she's
thing.
testing...
It's my perspective, okay? Leave me alone.
Right,
It's the
you're
same
right,
feeling.
you're right, you're right, you're absolutely
I'm just saying she's testing you to see if you're going to leave her. She doesn't want you to leave her in the future. So it's kind of like that's both a tease. Women never really tease. I'm sorry. Everything is like so underhanded.
Oh, like ulterior motive?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
And it's
100%.
It's not even
Women
their fault.
Women are smart as
They're smart. They're smarter than they know.
Oh, 100%.
So whenever they make a joke, it's like
you're divine.
Yeah.
You're connected
it
to
wasn't
all
even
that.
an insult. It was just like they don't even realize it.
Right. Correct. I agree with that. I 100% agree with that. And yeah, getting back to that point, like those are your insecurities, those are your shortcomings, and honestly, at the end of the day, him hearing that isn't helping because either A, he is, and he's petrified because you're gonna find out, or B, you just fucked with him to a point where it's like, bro, I gotta think about that too now.
Oh yeah.
I gotta think about like proving myself to you to show that I'm not gay. Like, come on.
Just
Like, we're gonna discuss this a lot in the relationship and sex episodes, but I'm gonna say it now. I feel like your partner, man or woman, has one responsibility: to honor themselves
that's what I said.
and make themselves happy.
Bars.
Because if they're not happy, how the fuck do you expect them to make you happy? Those kids you're trying to have with them, how are they going to educate them?
Ooh, ow.
How are they going to be there for them? How are they going to support them? They're not healed. They're a child themselves.
Oh.
Their inner child is a mess.
Bars.
And that's on both sides. The women that you're trying to get pregnant, like, hello, she's the baby factory. Give her time. Give her process. Like, I just feel like relationships have gotten...
You just call her a baby factory?
Yes!
That's what I'd say. I mean, I can't say that, but you can say that. Okay, that's
Yeah,
good.
I can. And... where am I going with this? God damn it!
Go.
I'm so heated right now.
I know, you are. Do your thing.
Not at you, though. Stop it. I'm... like... just understand that I feel like when it comes to relationships, that's what it is. I'm trying to figure out where this fits exactly in my understanding of my world. The two words that should be completely removed and never used in a relationship. Partners should never say this to one another. The two words they should never use are should and supposed. Because they should do something, says who? Says who? I mean, if they made a promise to you, that's one thing. If it's a conversation that you've had, that's another thing. But when it comes down to it, says who?
Yeah.
I told you the story about one of my girlfriends and the guy that she was dating, and like how you know she'd call me like on one of her visits, and she'd be like, I picked another fight.
Yeah.
And at first, it started off like, can you believe what he did to me? Can you believe that he had the audacity to
exist? How dare he exist?
And somehow I would always blindside her. Because, well, at first I blindsided her because she was like, because my question was, did you tell him? And her response was, no. Not just no. No. Why would I tell him?
Supposed to figure that out.
Exactly.
Exactly.
For those of you that couldn't hear, he was supposed to figure that out. Really? So, somehow, he was supposed to incept that you were pissed off for the specific reason that you were pissed off.
Men aren't that smart. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. Like, we don't really pick up on those things.
I mean,
I get that, but that's me. Like, men, I've seen men, like, go so blindly into that. Like,
because
da. It's like, what the hell?
I mentioned the book Men Are From Venus and Women Are From Mars, and maybe I'm sounding convoluted in how, you know, contradictory I am right now, but hear me out. This whole men and women come from different worlds thing, I understand the validity to it completely, because I just explained why. I personally believe that. However, for me personally, I always tell people, I tell friends, I used to tell friends in conflict, now I tell them beforehand, but pretend I'm 6, and pretend that I just don't understand. That's how clear I want you to be with me, with everything. Because the way that I look at it, relationship or not, if I'm doing something that pisses you off the first time, and you let me know, guess what I'm going to say? Well, my thought process is going to be one of two things. How do I feel about it? Am I okay with it? Like, oh, I like this about me, I'm not changing that for you. Or am I like, oh shit, I didn't know that I did that. Thank you for telling me. My bad, I won't do it again. More importantly, you're holding me accountable. You're saying, yo, in my circle, please don't. And I'm going to say, yo, I got you. Yes, absolutely. Or I'm not. But either way, allow me to make an informed decision. For some reason, when it comes to relationships, we don't think we have to do that. And it makes no sense to me. You are who you are. And when I say that your partner's obligation is to themselves first and foremost, it's because they have to know those things. They have to know their own boundaries. They have to know what works for them. They have to know what doesn't work for them. And you have to honor it. Because if you don't and you're married and you're in a relationship down the line and it starts pissing you off, that's on who? No one else but you. No one else but you. I know a lot of men. And I know a lot of different types. I know men who really enjoy being men. They like it. They like themselves in contrast to women. They really enjoy the chase to a point. They enjoy being a provider. They enjoy being an alpha. I know men who are betas. I know men who have actually said the words, more than one, who have said the words, I'd say, wow, like 4 off the top of my head.
What are the words?
Sorry. The words are, I want an alpha. I want an alpha female. I would be more than happy being at home, being a stay-at-home dad. I know alphas who have no problem being a stay-at-home dad. And what I love about that is how steadfast they are in their resolve.
Yep.
They're like, this is who I am, what? And that's exactly how it should be. And the goal of this episode for me is to, men who need to hear this, be whoever the fuck you are. The end. It took me a really long time to get to that point. I found out who I was, and then I allowed the people in my life who love me, who want nothing but the best for me, to fuck with me. And I mean, I allowed them to convince me that they knew what was best and I didn't. So I blindly followed them. Gained the weight. Awful place in my life. Luckily, I came to my senses and I left. Been here ever since, and here I am now, healing from all of that. But I'm not reinventing myself. I'm just getting back to myself in a nutshell. I'm authentically me. And for the first time in my life, I love who I am. Absolutely love it. Beyond a shadow of a doubt. Growing up, I was tormented. The way that I walked, the way that I talked, the way that I wrote, just so many things. I was scrutinized, I was bastardized, I was ostracized.
Jesus, that's a lot of words.
Dude, but they're all accurate. Like,
I'm not saying that.
and they're no, I mean not you, but like, it was awful. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And when I finally came to terms with that, like right around 18, 19 years old, where I found my personal tribe of people. I love you guys so much. You all know who you are. That was great, as long as it was great. And then, I had to grow up and I had to find my place in society, and I found it, and I hated it. And I said, fuck you, I'm out.
Jesus, mic drop.
And now I'm here, and you know what? Like I said, I'm not finding myself. I'm not discovering who I am. I'm getting back in touch with who I am. And my process for me was dating myself. That's gonna come in the relationship episode for sure, but I feel like so often, like, at least for me, I heard so many times growing up, like, after a breakup, after being ready for a relationship but being single, like, oh, you need to date yourself for a while. Yet no one elaborated on what that meant. And I feel like I actually mentioned this in a previous episode, but I did. Like, I actively spent time with myself. Meaning, the same way that, like, your body will tell you what it needs, like, for food, for whatever, is the same way that I told myself what I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. If I wanted a low-key day where it was just me on the couch watching TV, that's what I did. If I wanted a low-key day where I was reading a book, it's what I did. If I wanted to go to the beach, it's what I did. If I changed my mind 15 times in a 45-minute period, it's what I did.
That's like all I do my entire life.
It's a beautiful place to be, and it's why you know yourself so well. To me, like, dating yourself means we've all had that person that our body responds to. We get so fucking excited when we see them. We are moved beyond words. We want to move heaven and earth to do whatever we can to A, make them happy, and B, hopefully, because it keeps them there with us longer.
Yes.
And for those of us that aren't too proud to act on those feelings, you know, I feel like the last thing you want to do is upset that person. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, you're not going to go out of your way to pander to them and whatnot, but when it comes down to it, I feel like when you're in a relationship, and perfect example, you're in a relationship, someone has a really stressful day at work, and they've been very vocal about their stressful day. They knew it was coming. It went exactly how they knew it was going to, or worse. And they come home, like, what would you do for them? What I've done is I make dinner. I have their clothes laid out for them after they get out of the shower. I give them a massage. Like, whatever it is that I can do to give them a good day. Yet, when it comes to ourselves, when we know we've had a really stressful day, when we know that we're anxiety stricken, how often do we do that for ourselves? How often do we allow ourselves to be the center of our attention and do all those things for us that we're hoping our partner does for us, or like we're pissed off because we don't have said partner to do those things for us. And I feel like we're missing the point there. It's your responsibility to know you, to know who you are, to know how you operate, to know your likes, your dislikes, and what turns you on, what you're attracted to, and how on earth do you expect to find a partner that will fulfill all of those things if you don't know what all of those things are that you need to have fulfilled? It's something that I've been contemplating myself, like I have fully accepted how much alone time I vitally need. Especially with life coaching and doing this and being in a band. Like, after a show, like,
time to process.
Exactly, like, energetically, mentally, emotionally, like, I need to heal.
Yeah.
And recoup. And I really like my alone time. I really value it. I also really like relationships. I really value those too. And I'm really excited to find my perfect partner. And I'll get there in a second. But yes, I said my perfect partner. I said that. Digest. And I'm excited. Like, I am. Like, I'm excited to be in a relationship, and I'm excited to, just put into practice everything that I've been talking about, And when it comes to all of a sudden your time isn't your time anymore because you're in a relationship, I feel like there's a way that that's not a thing. I feel like as long as you're communicative and as long as you listen to yourself, your body, because, I mean, our bodies don't stop at telling us the food that we need. Our bodies tell us when we're not okay in a situation that we're in. Our bodies tell us when we're getting a physical reaction, good or negative, from another person. Our bodies tell us, oh, this is a really great sign, this is not. Those red flags that we love to ignore, yes, guilty here as well. Our bodies tell us when those red flags are. And when we heal enough to be able to listen to them, because our egos aren't getting in the way, because we've done the work to say, oh, I had this trauma from years ago. Yes, I've healed from it. No, I don't want any more of it. Thank you, though. It's what we all want. And all I'm here to tell you is that we all have the ability to do it. So back to men specifically. Enough. Like, I feel like when it comes to, people who are so ironclad and so like, just steadfast in, certain beliefs, like when it comes to being a man and whatnot, like, the people that gave you these impressions, how happy are they?
Never.
Wow.
That's true, though.
It's not never. Like, because there are people who, yeah, they're really happy. Like, it worked for them. again, this is a really dangerous statement, but I'm excited to step away from what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, and focus more on what it means to be James, what it means to be Josiah, what it means to be Robert, what it means to be Gertrude, Josephine, Jamie. Like, I'm excited to see a culture where we focus on the person and not what society says. Oh, this is the box you're supposed to fit into because you have a vagina. This is the box that you're supposed to fit into because you don't. In a lot of ways, and Jesus Christ, hear me out. In a lot of ways, I feel like it's so fucking hard for men. It's so much harder for men simply because of all the expectation. In the first TED Talk that I mentioned, in Nicole Emma's TED Talk, she mentions how in 2016, over 45,000 people in the US committed suicide. Let that number sink in for a sec. 45,000 people committed suicide. And if that doesn't shock you, hold on. But of those 45,000, 80% were men. 80% were men. That,
Like a lot.
like, shook me. I was shook. Are you kidding me? It and of course it begs the question, why? What's going on? And that's where I say I feel like it's harder for men.
Well, I know why.
Of course we do. We all do. Because they're trying to fit into a box that they don't fit in, simply because society says, hey, by the way, this is where you're supposed to be. And like I said, families, partners, friends, we don't help. Like I said, I completely feel like it's so difficult for men because they have these obligations. And I'm passionate because I have a lot of friends who I see struggle, a lot of hardship, simply because they allow themselves to take on responsibility that isn't theirs. I've said it before, I will say it again, and I'll say it again after this.
Jesus.
You, as an individual person, you included, have one responsibility, and it is to your happiness.
Oh God.
As soon as that becomes a person's priority, mountains move out of the way on your behalf. Because like I said, nature always creates a balance. And with all the knowledge that I have in me today in this moment, we are instinctively born to be the person that we are designed to be. And I believe that suicide number, the number that's even bigger than that because of the ones that weren't reported, the number of people who suffer from mental illness, from depression, from a lot of assigned deformities that all lead back to exactly what we're talking about right now, would significantly decrease if we just spent a lot more time getting to know who we are and falling in love with that person. So many of us are desperate, myself for a long time, for someone to love us and someone to put us in a headspace that allows us to be worthy. And I believe that journey is really important, but you're the person that should be giving out the love to yourself. As always, live life on your terms, not as society dictates. And I'm going to remind you, with everything that I've discussed here, previous and future, or past and future, take what works and leave what doesn't.
Put the rest in jail.
Don't do that either.
Why?
Alright, fine, do it.
It's
Go
fun.
on, do your thing.
It's fun.
Do your thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jail.
Alright, jail.
Jail.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Appreciate having you. Again, my name is Carlo Jean-Michel. My special guest, Jordan Peterson.
That's my name.
And we will see you on the next episode of New Society.
Unless I get fired.
Could happen. Take care, guys.